there was one question that lingered in the minds of many. Why wasn't Kion, Simba's son, present in The Lion King too? This is the story of what really happened. The night Kion was born, the Pride Lands were bathed in an eerie silver glow, the full moon hanging low over the vast grasslands. A warm breeze whispered through the trees, rustling the leaves with a calming rhythm. It was a peaceful night, but deep within the den of Pride Rock, tension lingered. Simba stood near the entrance, his golden fur illuminated by the moonlight, his amber eyes fixed on the horizon. He had been through this before. The night Kiara was born had been filled with both joy and anxiety, but this time, something felt different. A soft cry echoed from inside. Simba turned, his heart pounding. A moment later, Nala emerged from the shadows, her eyes filled with warmth as she cradled their newborn son. The tiny cub nestled close to her fur, his soft golden coat barely visible against her own. Simba stepped closer, his breath catching in his throat. The cub was perfect, small yet strong, with the same curious eyes Kiara had when she first opened them. Rafiki, the wise mandrill, arrived shortly after, leaning on his staff as he approached the royal family. He studied the newborn cub for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he reached out, gently brushing his fingers over the cub's shoulder, and that's when he saw it. A faint marking, barely visible against the golden fur, a symbol of ancient power. Rafiki's eyes widened slightly. He had seen this before, long ago. He turned to Simba, his voice low and filled with reverence. He bears the mark of the guard. Simba's expression changed. A mixture of pride and concern flickered in his eyes. The mark of the guard was a rare blessing, a sign that the cub had been chosen by the great kings of the past to lead the Lion Guard, the sacred group of protectors who ensured the balance of the circle of life. Simba knew what this meant. Kion's destiny would not be that of a king. It would be something else entirely. As the days turned to months, Kion grew alongside Kiara, but even from a young age, the differences between them were obvious. Kiara was bold and independent. She would wander beyond the safety of Pride Rock, eager to explore the lands and see what lay beyond the horizon. She had a fearless spirit, a thirst for adventure. Kion, however, was different. He was thoughtful, always watching, always listening. While Kiara tested boundaries, Kion was more cautious, more aware of the responsibilities that came with being a prince. But there was something else, something deeper. From the moment he could speak, Kion was drawn to the stories of the past. He would sit beside Rafiki for hours, listening to the tales of Mufasa, of the ancient kings who had ruled before him. He was fascinated by the idea of protecting the circle of life, not as a ruler, but as a guardian. And then one day he discovered his power. The first roar, it happened by accident. Kion had been playing near the watering hole with Kiara and a few of the younger animals from the Pride. The day had been peaceful until a group of hyenas wandered too close to the cubs. They weren't attacking, not yet, but their presence alone was enough to make the younger animals nervous. Kiara stepped forward, trying to assert herself as the future queen, but the hyenas only laughed. And then Kion felt something stir deep inside him. It was a sensation unlike anything he had ever known, a powerful force rising from within, urging him to act. His heart pounded, his breath quickened, and before he knew it, he roared. The ground trembled beneath his paws. A great gust of wind tore through the air, pushing the hyenas back as if an invisible force had struck them. The echoes of the roar carried through the valley, shaking the very trees. Everyone froze. The hyenas, startled and frightened, fled without hesitation. The young animals stared at Kion in awe. Even Kiara looked stunned. Kion, breathing heavily, turned toward the rock wall beside him and saw something that made his fur stand on end. A faint image, barely visible, glowing against the rock. Lions. Ancient, powerful lions. The great kings of the past. Watching him. That evening, Simba stood with Rafiki, staring at the mark on Kion's shoulder. "The roar of the elders," Rafiki murmured. "It has returned." Simba exhaled slowly. He had always known that Kion's path would be different from Kiara's, but this was something far greater than he had imagined. The roar was a powerful gift, a sacred power passed down through the ages. It was said to be granted only to those worthy of leading the Lion Guard. But with that power came a warning. If used in anger, the roar could be lost forever. Simba knew what had to be done. Kion had to be trained. He had to understand the weight of the power he wielded, the responsibility that came with it. And so, from that day forward, Kion's life changed. While Kiara was being taught the ways of leadership, Kion was being prepared for something else entirely. He would not rule from the throne. He would protect the kingdom from the shadows. He would become the leader of the Lion Guard. As the seasons passed, Kion grew into his role. He chose his team, not just lions, but animals he trusted with his life. Bunga, the fearless honey badger, Fuli, the swift cheetah, Beshte, the strong hippo, and Ono, the keen-eyed egret. Together, they defended the Pride Lands, fighting off threats that Kiara and the royal family never saw coming. They worked in silence, protecting the circle of life from dangers beyond the horizon. But deep inside, Kion knew that his journey was only just beginning. Because the roar was more than just a power. It was a destiny. And one day, it would take him far beyond the Pride Lands, into the unknown, to a fate even he could not yet see. Simba saw the weight on his son's shoulders. He knew what it was like to carry a burden too great for one lion alone. And then everything changed. A new enemy had emerged, one that even the Lion Guard could not ignore. A scarred lion named Zira had been plotting in the Outlands, raising an army of loyal followers dedicated to Scar's legacy. She believed Kovu, her chosen heir, would one day take the throne from Simba. The Lion Guard stood as the first line of defense, but in one fateful battle, Kion made a mistake. While chasing an enemy through the Outlands, Kion was ambushed. He fought fiercely, his roar shaking the earth, but Zira had been waiting. In the chaos, a venomous snake struck, its fangs sinking into Kion's flesh. The pain was unlike anything he had ever felt. The venom burned through him, and with it came something far worse: darkness. The poison clouded his mind, whispering things he had never felt before. Anger, fear, doubt. He could feel the roar shifting inside him, growing unstable. Rifki warned him if he let hatred control him, the roar would be lost forever. Kion's duty was no longer just to the Pride Lands. He had to find a cure or risk becoming a danger to his own family. Simba made the hardest decision of his reign. Kion was no longer safe in the Pride Lands. If the venom twisted him, if the roar fell into darkness, not even Simba could stop what would come next. Rafiki spoke of a place, a land beyond the mountains, where healers with ancient knowledge might help Kion regain control of his gift. It was the only hope. Kion left the Pride Lands that night. His friends in the Lion Guard followed without hesitation. Their journey was long, filled with trials that tested not only their strength, but Kion's very soul. He had to face the darkness inside him, to resist the anger growing within, to master the roar before it consumed him. By the time Kion found healing, by the time he mastered his power, years had passed. He had grown into a leader not just of the Lion Guard, but of something even greater. The lands beyond the Pride Lands were not as protected as his home. There were lost prides, broken kingdoms, places where the circle of life had been shattered. Kion saw the suffering, the imbalance, and he realized something. The Pride Lands no longer needed him, but the world did. He could not return to the Pride Lands, not because he wasn't welcome, but because his duty had changed. Simba understood. Kiara understood. Kion had become something more than a prince. He was a guardian of the wild, and that is why Kion wasn't in The Lion King 2. While Kiara's journey led her to unite the Pride Lands, Kion's path took him beyond them. He became a protector of the forgotten, a leader not bound by a kingdom but by a greater calling. His roar still echoes across distant lands. Some say he still watches over the circle of life from afar. Others believe he may one day return, when the Pride Lands need him most. But for now, his story remains untold. Now you know the truth. Kion's absence wasn't a mistake. It was destiny. But what if things had been different? What if Kion had stayed and fought in the final battle? Would the Pride Lands have been stronger? Or would the roar have been lost forever? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you want more Untold Lion King stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.